This week, we're asking you if you can prove God and whether Assassin's Creed will help. Hello and welcome to TGI Monday. Do you know, sometimes it's a little bit like when they used to record Friends. Do you know this? And they would all sort of do the rehearsal beforehand and then go upstairs and film a less funny version. and sometimes I do wish that what we recorded was the chit-chat that we have before the show. But I'm afraid you get the serious version when we're, dealing with the actual question and trying to behave ourselves, aren't we?
I always behave myself.
Yeah,
right. I always behave myself.
So on which note, we've had a question from one of our regular viewers and commenters, and Tracy, we always love to hear from you. And Tracy's asked, how do I explain and prove that God is real and not just made up like any other religion? So I think that's a question probably that lots of people have. People do think, excuse me.
Bless you.
Oh, calm down.
Excuse me.
Was that a comment, was it? It was like, ooh, no.
That's why we don't edit.
Yeah, thanks. People do sort of assume that all these things that are made up are the same. But actually, I don't think I want to say that religion is made up at all. How do religions kind of... Who knows about history of religions and how things come into being? Go on, Hal, talk us
Well, I think the thing is, if we think about... If we believe that God is calling all people and revealing himself to all people, right, then in different parts of the world and in different contexts, people are going to respond to that same call. So if we believe that we're made in the image of God, right, then we're going to respond to that image within us, and that will show itself in different ways. So it's not the question of somebody sitting down going, oh, I wonder what I can make up now.
Yeah.
It's actually a response to something. And some responses, I would have to say, are more accurate than others because I'm a Christian.
So
well, across the world, we all share the same questions. Where did I come from?
Yeah.
Why am I here? Am I worth anything at all? Do I matter?
Yes.
Do I have any meaning?
You do.
I thank you.
Aw,
That's good.
That's
Good.
nice.
Nice.
That's very kind.
The rest of us won't say, well,
No, you do, definitely.
But the amount of... I'm starting to feel like I don't.
No,
You're protesting too much.
Carry on.
Before I lose my thread. The point is that the amount of revelation that God has given us is different across the world, and God has revealed himself through Jesus Christ most fully. So you get the most full revelation of who God is through Jesus. So that does give us, if you like, a clearer picture. But we all have those same questions, and like Hal said, God has revealed himself in different ways.
And religion actually is, humans, sort of anthropologically, if you like, we're people who like to find ways to express and interpret something. And actually, I think, Hal, you've used the football stands, the whole culture around that. There's something very religious about that. There's an urge to come together, to be part of a bigger picture, to share the highs and the lows. So I'm with you completely. That religions aren't a made-up thing. They're an expression of something really deeply human.
Yeah.
So in Ecclesiastes, it talks about how God has set eternity in the hearts of men, and I think there's something in that there is that instinctive desire to know that there's something beyond our existence and something bigger, and a natural thing then is to worship whatever you've understood that to be, that's beyond us and bigger than us. So there are religions, and it is, as you say, Zoe, a very common human impulse, and we see that all around the world in different ways. How then do we deal with the first part of Tracy's question? How do we explain and prove that God is real? What is it about Christianity that is distinctive, and what do we mean by provable in that
Proof
context?
is totally overrated, isn't it?
Okay.
So if we were aiming for proof, let's say with a chair, I can prove that chair will definitely hold your weight. It's got, I could try and find mathematics and physics and everything to describe that. But you wouldn't really know it unless you sat on it.
Right.
And actually, I think we really risk turning God into something else, or someone like me, if we're looking for proof. And proof is kind of the death of faith in so many different ways. However, there is, I know that I'm much more of the feely instinctive, you're going to go back to the science on this stuff, perhaps. But I think you have to then go beyond what you have heard and what someone else has told you. And I think what we need to pay more attention to is the fruit of people's lives and words, which is why Jesus was, even if you just thought he was a good bloke and you approached the way he spoke, in terms of what he said and the way he lived, there's a hell of a lot that still lives in that.
Okay.
And yet you have to go beyond.
The thing with proof, though, what we have today, we're all looking for all the time a authority which lies beyond human experience. So if we think, say, for example, of Brexit, right? Now with Brexit, we had one lot of people who proved, right, that Brexit in the future would be a bad thing. And then we had a pile of other people who had lots and lots of numbers which proved that it would be a good thing. And I think the trouble with the idea of proving something is we have to ask the person we're talking to is, what level of proof would you find acceptable?
Right.
So, for example, a friend of mine I lived with in college, in university, said, I don't believe in God, because unless he turned up by here now and said, hello, I'm God. And I said to him, no, you wouldn't, because if he did that, you'd say, well, that's a hallucination because I was drunk.
Right.
So it depends on, that's the first
What's
question.
a sufficient level of proof for the kind of thing
it's funny,
we're dealing with?
Because the question is often set against science, which can prove things. And actually, most scientists will tell you, it's not proof. It's the best idea we've got so far, and we haven't disproved it yet.
And there is a certain psychology in parts of the scientific community that says that everything we believe to be true has to be controllable and repeatable through
testable.
And actually, when you think about who God is, God can't be controlled, and God might not want to repeat himself over and over again. And as soon as we start to talk about proof in those terms, when we start to have control over God.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
that's
Dan,
right. You can't put him in a test tube.
You mentioned about God's revelation coming in different ways, but Jesus being the fullest revelation of that. So I think if I were answering this question, someone asked me to prove that God is real or to prove that Christianity is true, that is where I would start, because while the concept of God is beyond our mind, actually the unique thing about Christianity is that we believe God came and revealed himself on earth in a person at a particular time and place in history.
And was shockingly weak, very ungodlike.
In all kinds of ways,
Very
unexpected
unique.
and not what people would have thought. And actually, there are some facts there which may not be mathematically provable, but are certainly historical facts with evidence and things that can be considered and balances weighed and say, well, actually, might he have been who he claimed to be? Might he have done the things that are said about him? And if so, if the balance of proof tends towards that, which certainly I think we all believe, then there are implications of that for what we think about God and what kind of religion flows from that, aren't there? So, we might not want to say proof somehow eliminates faith and it's not that.
No.
But there are nonetheless concrete facts that we can point people to.
Neither is it our job to try and convince people that God is real, actually. We get significantly further when we are asked questions and invited to join a quest or to be attentive to things that aren't so tangibly explainable. And as soon as we start systematising God to demonstrate, God doesn't need us to do that.
Well, I think as well, though, it's to do with the Jesus that we have is the Jesus of the witnesses. So what we have are the witness reports of the person of Jesus. Now, with the Gospels, for example, like Mark is written, say, 30 odd years afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So people say, it's too long, it's too long. Now, the Battle of Orgreave was in 1984, and we're hopefully going to have an inquiry into that, right? Now, we accept the evidence of witnesses from the Battle of Orgreave in 1984 today, because it's not that long ago. And Jesus' ministry happened in public, where witnesses witnessed it, and the Gospels were written down 30 years afterwards, and we accept that level of proof now.
Exactly.
So why not then?
And we need to sort of wind this up. There's a verse in John's Gospel, which I can never remember the reference for, but Jesus basically says, if anyone wants to know whether my words are true, he'll put them into practice. And there is something about that needing to experience, needing to sit on the chair, needing to give it a go and live it out and see if that worldview makes sense. Because that's essentially what religion is interpreting the world in the way that makes most sense. And certainly for me and for us, it makes most sense understood through the lens of Jesus and God's revelation through him. So Tracy, I think that's what I would recommend, at least, is that you talk to the person who's asking you these things and say, well, what do you make of Jesus?
Take a seat.
Take a seat.
Give it a go.
Give it a go and see if that works for you.
But there is truth out there because, right, as it says in...
The truth is out there.
No, because as it says in Assassin's Creed, right, yeah, if there is no truth, everything is permissible.
There you go.
Boom, boom.
If it's in Assassin's Creed, what can you
Job
do?
done.
Ninja monks.
Job
Ninja
done.
monks.
Are you a ninja monk in Assassin's Creed?
I tell you, I wish I was a ninja monk. Thanks for watching, and please send in your questions. Doesn't matter what the question is, please send it in and share it around with your mates on Facebook and Twitter and everybody else.